Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that might just shift your whole perspective. You want to know when he finally gets it, when the tears stop, when the calls go unanswered, when the door don't open no more. When you walk away, that's when he finally realizes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break it down for you plain and simple. Your self-worth is not up for discussion. It's not something you negotiate, and it sure as hell ain't something you bargain with. It's not a coupon code. It's not a sale item, and it don't go on clearance. You are the full price, the premium package, the VIP access, and anybody who can't see that doesn't deserve a seat in your life. See, what happens a lot of times is we start adjusting ourselves for people who were never even qualified to handle us in the first place. You start lowering your standards, ignoring the red flags, accepting the bare minimum, just so you can keep someone around who only values you when it's convenient. But let me tell you something, baby. You don't prove your worth by staying. You prove it by knowing when to go. Self-worth is about knowing what you bring to the table and refusing to let someone act like you're the napkin. It's knowing that your love, your loyalty, your presence, it's a gift. And when you constantly have to remind somebody how to treat you, you already gave them too many chances. Love should never cost you your dignity. A relationship should never make you question your worth. And if it does, that ain't love, that's emotional debt. I've talked to women who said, but Steve, maybe if I give it one more try, maybe if I love him harder, maybe he'll finally see. Let me stop you right there. If he can't see the queen standing in front of him when you're giving your all, that man is blind by choice. And no amount of extra effort is gonna fix that. You cannot teach a man to value you. He either does or he doesn't. And the longer you stay hoping he'll change, the more you devalue yourself in your own eyes. The truth is, when you really know your worth, you stop chasing people. You stop begging for effort. You stop accepting sorry with no change. Because you understand that the right one won't make you feel like you have to earn basic respect. The right one will recognize your worth without you having to draw a map to it. Don't let loneliness make you forget what you deserve. Don't let history make you hold on to what hurts. And don't let love trick you into settling for struggle. Because once you believe, really believe in your own value, you stop asking people to see it. You start moving different. You walk with confidence, with peace, with power. And anyone who wants to be part of your life better come correct, or not at all. Because your worth ain't up for debate. Not today, not ever. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me now, because I'm about to tell you something that might just change the way you see yourself and how you move from this day forward. The reason he didn't value you the way he should have is simple. You were always there, always picking up the phone, always responding to the disrespect with patience, always staying after the apologies with no change. You became too available. And here's the truth. People don't value what's always within reach. Let's keep it real. The moment something becomes too easy to access, too predictable, too forgiving, we start to treat it like it'll always be there, no matter what. That's human nature. That's why people clean their house before guests come over, but live messy when it's just them. That's why folks ignore the sunrise until the day it don't come out. That's why he didn't value you, because he thought you weren't going anywhere. You were always showing up, even when he didn't. You were loyal in silence, loving him while he was distracted, patient while he was inconsistent, building a future while he was playing games. And instead of honoring that, he took it for granted because he thought she ain't going nowhere. That's the trap. When people know they got you no matter what, they stop putting in effort. They get lazy with your heart. And it's not because you're not worthy. It's because you made yourself too accessible to someone who hadn't earned that kind of access. You kept giving him VIP treatment while he had general admission behavior. And the truth is, the more you give without boundaries, the more you teach people they can take without consequence. Every time you forgave without change, every time you accepted less than you deserved, every time you showed up after being let down, you trained him to believe that love came with no price, no accountability, no effort. But here's what happens when you start pulling back. When you stop answering every time, when you stop showing up with your cape on, ready to fix what he broke again and again. When you start choosing you, that's when he notices. That's when he feels it. Because suddenly that access he had to you, gone. That safety net he kept falling into, removed. That woman who always had his back, now got her own. Now he's remembering the value of what he had when it's no longer guaranteed. Now he's texting more, calling more, trying to remind you of the good times. But the good times don't erase the fact that he never showed up when it counted. He only started seeing your worth when he saw you walk away with it. You see, value is often realized in absence. It's when you take yourself off the shelf, when you stop offering the best of you to someone who didn't protect it, that they finally see what they lost. But by then, you already decided that your peace is more important than being available to someone who treated your love like an option. You were never too much. You were just too present for someone who didn't know how to handle real. Remember, words can be cheap, but silence cuts deeper than any sentence you could ever speak. So next time you're in a situation where you're tempted to explain, to defend, to prove your worth, remember sometimes the best answer is to say nothing at all. Let the silence speak louder than anything you ever could. It'll leave them wondering. It'll leave them reflecting. And most importantly, it'll leave them respecting you in a way that words never could. Let me tell you something that should be at the top of your priority list right now. Your peace is more important than their presence. Too many of us get caught up in thinking we need certain people in our lives to feel validated, loved, or even complete. But let me tell you, when you allow someone's presence to disturb your peace, you're making a huge mistake. There's no amount of company, no amount of attention, no amount of affection that can replace the inner peace you feel when you're truly at peace with yourself. You see, a lot of us put up with people who disrupt our mental health, our happiness, and our sense of calm just because we don't want to be alone or we're afraid of what life would be like without them. But the truth is, you are never truly alone when you have peace. You are never truly lonely when you're aligned with your own sense of balance and happiness. If someone in your life is draining you, stressing you out, constantly making you question your worth, or causing you to feel like you're walking on eggshells, why would you tolerate that? Your peace is priceless, and you can't afford to lose it for anyone. See, people who don't understand your power will try to make you feel guilty for walking away. They'll try to tell you that you should have stuck around, tried harder, been more patient. But what they're really doing is projecting their own fears onto you. They're afraid of standing up for themselves, of choosing their own happiness. And that's the difference between them and you. You're brave enough to walk away from the things that don't serve you. You're brave enough to say, this isn't working for me anymore, and I'm not going to settle for less than I deserve. When you walk away, you take your power back. You stop waiting around for someone to change and start creating the life you deserve. You start setting boundaries and you stop letting people cross them. And here's the kicker, when you finally walk away from someone who can't give you the love and respect you deserve, they start to see you in a way they never did when you were always there. Now they see you as someone who values herself, someone who won't tolerate nonsense, someone who won't let anyone treat her like an option. Walking away is your freedom. It's the moment you decide that your life and your happiness are too important to waste on people who won't treat you right. It's not a defeat. It's the beginning of something greater. Let me tell you something that a lot of folks don't get. Silence speaks louder than words. You see, when you're constantly talking, constantly trying to explain, constantly trying to make someone understand your worth or your feelings, you're doing more harm than good. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop talking altogether and let your absence, your silence, and your actions do the talking. Words, they can be twisted, ignored, or even forgotten. But silence, it forces people to listen. It forces them to feel the weight of your decision. It demands respect without you ever having to say a word. Now, I know some of you out there might be thinking, but Steve, I've tried talking, I've tried explaining myself. I've tried letting him know how I feel, and I hear you. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone actually heard you when you were begging for their attention or trying to convince them of your value? Did they listen? Did they change their behavior? Probably not, because too often people don't truly hear you until you stop speaking. It's the absence of your words that forces them to confront their actions. The longer you keep talking, the more you allow someone to disregard what you're saying, to take your feelings for granted. But the moment you fall silent, that's when they start to realize what they were missing. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're choosing to protect your peace. Sometimes it's in the moments where you hold your tongue, where you choose to walk away instead of argue, where you stop trying to prove your point. That's when people start paying attention. They start wondering, what happened? Why aren't you fighting for this anymore? Why don't you care like you used to? That's silence. That's your power. That's your strength. And it'll make them realize just how much they took you for granted. Now, I know some of you might still be thinking, but if I don't say anything, won't they just think I don't care? Won't they think I'm giving up? Let me tell you something. Silence is not the same as giving up. It's not the same as not caring. It's a statement. It says, I won't chase after you. I won't beg for your time or attention. I will not fight for something that you're not fighting for too. When you finally stop talking, when you stop pleading for someone's attention, you're saying, I know my worth, and I refuse to let you devalue it anymore. You see, words can be used to fill the space, to smooth things over, to try to fix something that's broken. But silence is the moment when you stop doing the emotional labor for someone else. It's the moment when you finally give yourself permission to stop trying to make someone else see what they should have seen all along. And let me tell you, when you stop speaking, when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to explain every little thing, that is when they start to notice. That's when they realize just how much they've lost. Because now they're facing the consequences of their actions, and they can't blame you for it anymore. You're no longer the one filling the silence, the one trying to make it all make sense. You've stepped back, and the quiet speaks for itself. Remember, words can be cheap, but silence cuts deeper than any sentence you could ever speak. So next time you're in a situation where you're tempted to explain, to defend, to prove your worth, remember sometimes the best answer is to say nothing at all. Let the silence speak louder than anything you ever could. It'll leave them wondering. It'll leave them reflecting. And most importantly, it'll leave them respecting you in a way that words never could. Let me tell you something that should be at the top of your priority list right now. Your peace is more important than their presence. Too many of us get caught up in thinking we need certain people in our lives to feel validated, loved, or even complete. But let me tell you, when you allow someone's presence to disturb your peace, you're making a huge mistake. There's no amount of company, no amount of attention, no amount of affection that can replace the inner peace you feel when you're truly at peace with yourself. You see, a lot of us put up with people who disrupt our mental health, our happiness, and our sense of calm just because we don't want to be alone, or we're afraid of what life would be like without them. But the truth is, you are never truly alone when you have peace. You are never truly lonely when you're aligned with your own sense of balance and happiness. If someone in your life is draining you, stressing you out, constantly making you question your worth, or causing you to feel like you're walking on eggshells, why would you tolerate that? Your peace is priceless, and you can't afford to lose it for anyone. Now, I know some of you might say, but Steve, they're family, they're my partner. I've invested so much into this relationship. I get it, I know. But listen, you have to understand something. If someone is creating chaos in your life, their presence becomes toxic, and no matter how much history you have with them or how deep the connection, no one has the right to come into your life and disturb your peace. Your peace is your power. It's the foundation of your well-being, your happiness, and your ability to move forward in life. And when you let someone else's presence overtake that, you're handing them control over your most valuable asset, your inner peace. Think about it. How many times have you sat through situations where you're being disrespected, mistreated, or just plain neglected, all because you were trying to keep the peace in the relationship? You didn't want to rock the boat, didn't want to upset anyone, so you allowed things to slide. But deep down, you knew that every moment you were sacrificing your peace for their comfort. You were losing a little bit of yourself. You were losing your joy, your happiness, your clarity, and your sense of self-worth. No one should have that kind of power over you. Here's the thing, your peace doesn't come from anyone else. It doesn't come from the approval of others. It doesn't come from constantly pleasing people or keeping everyone happy. It comes from within you. It comes from knowing that you are enough, that you are worthy, and that you deserve a life where you feel safe, loved, and respected. And if someone's presence in your life is taking away that peace, then it's time to reassess whether or not they belong there. You don't have to keep anyone around just for the sake of keeping them around. You don't have to sacrifice your happiness for someone else's comfort. Your peace should be non-negotiable. If their presence brings drama, stress, anxiety, or confusion into your life, then their presence is doing more harm than good. And no amount of affection, no matter how much they love you, will ever be worth the cost of your peace. At the end of the day, your peace is what allows you to thrive. It allows you to show up as the best version of yourself, is what gives you the strength to walk away from situations, to choose yourself, and to demand better. So always remember, when their presence is disturbing your peace, it's time to let go. Protect your peace at all costs, because there's nothing more valuable than having peace of mind. Let me tell you something that's about to change the way you see your own growth. When you level up, they notice too late. You see, people have this way of taking you for granted when you're down on your knees, when you're showing up for them, when you're supporting them, loving them, and putting them first. They see you giving, and sometimes they get used to it. But let me tell you something, the moment you stop giving all that energy, the moment you decide to level up, that's when they start looking at you like they lost something, because they did. The truth is, some people won't appreciate you until they see you thriving without them. They won't understand the value you bring until you stop showing up for them the way you always did. And when you finally decide to focus on yourself, when you start putting your goals first, when you start setting boundaries, and when you start leveling up, you're going to see something happen. They're going to start reaching out. They're going to start wondering, what happened? Where did she go? Why is she so focused on herself now? But by then it's already too late. You're no longer the person you used to be. You've transformed. I need you to understand this. People get comfortable with your presence when it's always available to them. They take you for granted when they can count on you to always be the one to give, to always be the one to step up. But when you make the decision to step back, when you take that time to level up and work on your own growth, it's like they've lost their lifeline. They start noticing the glow up, the new confidence, the boundaries you've set. But by then you've already moved on. You've already shifted your focus to bigger and better things. And let me tell you, that's when they start regretting their actions. Here's the thing. When you level up, it's not just about success or moving forward in life. It's about self-love. It's about showing yourself that you deserve better than what you've been getting. When you focus on leveling up, you start respecting yourself in ways you never have before. You stop settling for situations, relationships, and people that drain you. You start chasing your own goals and dreams, putting your peace, happiness, and mental health at the top of the list. And guess what? The people who took you for granted, they'll notice the change, but it's going to hit them when it's too late. You see, they didn't realize what they had until it was gone. They didn't understand the strength it took for you to always give, to always be there, to always keep the connection alive. But once you stop giving so much of yourself to someone who's not reciprocating, once you stop pouring into something that's draining you, that's when they realize they've lost you. And at that point, it's like trying to catch a train that's already left the station. You've leveled up, and now they're trying to figure out how they can get back in your life. But you've already moved on to better things. So don't worry about them noticing. Don't worry about whether they'll regret their actions. When you decide to level up, that's the reward in itself. You stop looking for validation. You stop waiting for someone to acknowledge your worth, and you start living your best life without them. And if they notice, that's their problem. Because by the time they do, you're already on your next chapter. A chapter where you're winning without their validation.